The call came at 2:30 on a Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting in the conference room, watching quarterly projections blur together on the screen, when my brother's name lit up my phone. Mike never called during business hours. Never. His voice was tight, careful. The kind of careful that means someone's world is about to end. "Sarah, I need to tell you something." The words hung there like smoke in still air. I could hear him breathing, could practically feel him choosing each word like he was defusing a bomb. "I saw David yesterday, at the airport. My husband had told me he was flying to San Francisco for a client meeting. 3 days. Back Thursday night. Routine business trip, he'd said. Kissed me goodbye at the kitchen counter while I packed his lunch like I had 100 times before." He wasn't alone, Sarah. The conference room suddenly felt smaller. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry insects. My colleagues kept talking about market trends and budget allocations, their voices fading into white noise. Who was with him? But I already knew. Deep in my chest, in that hollow place where intuition lives, I already knew. Her name's Jessica. Young. Maybe 25. They were holding hands. The phone felt slippery in my palm. I watched my boss point to a graph, his mouth moving silently. Numbers on a screen. Percentages. Growth projections. None of it mattered anymore. "There's more," Mike's voice cracked slightly. They had matching luggage.
Have I tax?
First-class tickets. Hawaii. Our anniversary trip. The one we'd planned for next month. The one David said we had to postpone because of work. Because the Peterson account needed his personal attention. Because the timing wasn't right. I stood up so fast my chair rolled backward into the wall. Everyone turned to look at me, their faces concerned and questioning. I mumbled something about feeling sick and walked out, my heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown timer. The elevator doors closed, and I was alone with the truth. 15 years of marriage. 15 years of trust and shared dreams and building a life together. 15 years of believing in us, in him, in the promises we made in that little church in Vermont with our families watching. The elevator descended, and with each floor, something inside me crystallized. Not into sadness, not into heartbreak, into something harder, something that cut both ways. By the time I reached the parking garage, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, scrolling through our bank accounts on my phone. Joint checking, joint savings, the investment portfolio we'd built together, the money market account for the house renovations. Everything shared, everything accessible. David had always insisted on joint accounts. "We're partners," he'd said when we got married. "What's mine is yours," it had seemed romantic then. A gesture of trust and commitment. Now it felt like ammunition. I called our financial advisor first.
Vet.
"It's Sarah Mitchell. I need to make some changes to our accounts." "Of course, honey. What can I do for you?" My voice was steady, professional. The same tone I used in board meetings when I was about to deliver bad news to shareholders. "I need to freeze all joint accounts pending a legal review. Today." There was a pause. Janet had been handling our money for 8 years. She'd helped us buy the house, plan for retirement, navigate David's investment in the startup that never went anywhere. "Sarah, is everything okay?" "I'll explain later. Right now, I just need those accounts locked down."
No transactions. No withdrawals.
"Nothing until you hear from my attorney. I'll need both signatures too." "Check the account agreements, Janet. I'm the primary on most of them. I can freeze them unilaterally for 72 hours if I suspect suspicious activity." I wasn't bluffing. I'd read every document we'd ever signed.
David used to tease me about it.
Called me his little lawyer. Said I was too careful, too suspicious. Turns out I wasn't suspicious enough. While Janet pulled up our accounts, I did the math in my head. Checking account, $43,000. Savings, $87,000. Money market, $62,000. The investment account, $215,000. Over $400,000. Money we'd saved together. Money from my promotions and his business development deals. Money from the house we'd flipped 3 years ago. Money from tax returns and bonuses, and all the little financial victories of a 15-year marriage. Money he was spending on her. Okay, Sarah. I've placed temporary holds on all the accounts you specified. You have until Friday at 5 p.m. before I'll need additional documentation. Thank you, Janet. Sarah, are you sure you're okay? I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My makeup was still perfect. My hair still in place. I looked like the same woman who'd walked into that conference room an hour ago. But something fundamental had shifted. Something that couldn't be put back.
Ivy fine.
Actually, I'm better than fine. The next call was to Marcus Webb, the attorney who'd handled our house purchase. He specialized in family law, but I never thought I'd need him for this. Marcus? It's Sarah Mitchell. I need to file for divorce. Today. Another pause. Another careful breath. Sarah, that's a big decision. Maybe we should schedule a consultation, talk through your options. My husband is in Hawaii with his mistress, spending our money on a vacation he told me we couldn't afford. I've already frozen our accounts. I need papers drawn up, and I need them served tomorrow. Tomorrow? Sarah, that's extremely fast. Don't you want to confront him first? Maybe try counseling. I thought about David's smile when he kissed me goodbye. The way he'd hummed in the shower that morning. The text he'd sent from the airport. Love you, babe. See you Thursday. He made his choice, Marcus. Now I'm making mine.
All right.
Can you be in my office in an hour? I'll be there in 30 minutes. I drove to Marcus's office with the radio off, the silence in my car absolute. My phone buzzed with work emails, meeting reminders, the normal rhythm of a Tuesday afternoon. But that life felt like something I was watching from a distance now, like a movie I'd seen too many times. Marcus's office was downtown, in one of those buildings with marble lobbies and oil paintings of dead judges. He met me in the conference room, legal pads and files spread across the mahogany table. Tell me everything, he said. So, I did. The airport sighting. The matching luggage. The anniversary trip we'd postponed. The client meeting in San Francisco that was actually a romantic getaway to Hawaii. The joint accounts I'd already frozen. Marcus took notes, his pen scratching across yellow paper. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. Sarah, I have to ask. Are you absolutely certain about this? Once we file, once papers get served, there's no taking it back quietly. I thought about the wedding photos on our mantle, the house we'd renovated together room by room, the plans we'd made for children that never came, the dreams we'd built on trust and promises, and the belief that love was enough. He's in Hawaii with another woman, Marcus, while I'm here working 60-hour weeks to pay for a life he's sharing with someone else. I'm certain. He nodded and opened his laptop. Okay, let's talk assets. The house was worth $600,000. We'd bought it for $428 years ago, spent another $100 on renovations. My name was on the deed first. I'd qualified for the mortgage on my salary alone, though David had contributed to the down payment. In California, it's community property, Marcus explained. But given the circumstances and the fact that community funds were used for what appears to be an extramarital affair, we can argue for a larger share. I want the house. That might be difficult too. Marcus, my voice was sharp enough to cut glass. I want the house. Everything in it. And half of every account we've ever shared. Plus alimony if he's been hiding income. He looked at me over his reading glasses. This was a different Sarah than the one who'd bought the house 8 years ago. That Sarah had been accommodating, trusting, had deferred to David on financial decisions, and smiled through closing meetings. This Sarah had fangs.
All right.
Let's make that happen. We spent 2 hours going through bank statements, investment portfolios, insurance policies. Every financial thread of our marriage laid out on paper like evidence at a crime scene. Marcus made calls to private investigators, forensic accountants, process servers. By 5 p.m., the paperwork was ready. Where do you want him served? Marcus asked. I pulled up the location Mike had texted me. Grand Wailea Resort, Maui. Room 2847. I want them served at the resort. In person. Tomorrow afternoon. Marcus raised an eyebrow. That's going to cost extra. Hawaiian service. I don't care what it costs. Actually, that wasn't entirely true. I did care. I cared about every dollar David had spent on her. Every meal, every drink, every sunset they'd watched together on my dime. I cared about the matching luggage and the first-class tickets and the romance I was paying for. But this was worth it. I drove home as the sun was setting, the paperwork in a manila envelope on my passenger seat. Our house looked the same as it had that morning. Same landscaping, same paint color, same welcome mat David had picked out because it matched the shutters. But I saw it differently now. Not as ours. As mine. Inside, everything felt frozen in time. David's coffee mug still in the sink from breakfast. His running shoes by the back door. The book he'd been reading, bookmark on page 47, sitting on his nightstand. I walked through each room like I was cataloging evidence. The kitchen we'd renovated 3 years ago. The living room where we'd hosted Christmas dinner. The master bedroom with the king-size bed we'd picked out together. The one where he'd held me just 4 mornings ago and whispered that he loved me. I opened his closet and stared at the empty space where his suitcase had been. The hangers pushed aside. The shoes he'd decided against taking. The life he'd left behind so casually. My phone buzzed. A text from David. Made it safe. Hotel is amazing. Missing you already. I stared at the message for a long time. The lies came so easily to him.
So naturally.
Made it safe. Missing you. Words that meant nothing, delivered with the same casualness as asking me to pick up milk on the way home. I typed back. Glad to hear it. Love you too. Because tomorrow, he'd understand exactly how much I loved him. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen with a bottle of wine and our wedding album, flipping through pictures of the people we used to be. Young and hopeful and convinced that love conquered everything. David in his tuxedo, nervous and sweating through his shirt. Me in my grandmother's dress, believing in forever. Page after page of family and friends who'd watched us promise to be faithful, to honor and cherish. In sickness and health, for richer or poorer, until death do us part. He'd broken every single word. And tomorrow, the consequences would find him in paradise. I woke up on the couch at 6 a.m., the album still open on my chest. My neck was stiff, my mouth dry from wine, but my mind was crystal clear. I had work to do. The shower was hot enough to strip paint. I stood under the water and let it wash away the remnants of who I'd been yesterday. The trusting wife. The accommodating partner. The woman who'd believed her husband's lies about client meetings and business trips. That woman was gone, drowned in Hawaiian sunshine and matching luggage. I dressed carefully. Black suit, the one I wore for hostile takeovers and difficult negotiations. Red lipstick, the shade David said, made me look dangerous. Hair pulled back in a severe bun. Wore paint for the battle ahead. At the office, I threw myself into work with laser focus. The Peterson account that had supposedly required David's personal attention. The client meetings that had kept him so busy. The projects that had been too important to postpone. Funny thing about lies. They leave trails. I called Peterson Industries directly. Hi, this is Sarah Mitchell from Davidson Communications. I'm trying to coordinate schedules with David Mitchell. Is he still planning to meet with your team this week? Oh, I think there's some confusion, the receptionist said. We don't have any meetings scheduled with Mr. Mitchell. Actually, we concluded our business with your company last month. The lie was so clean, so simple. No Peterson account. No client crisis. No business trip that required his immediate attention. Just a man who wanted to take his girlfriend to Hawaii and needed an excuse his wife would believe. I hung up and stared at my computer screen. Emails from David's company partners asking about deliverables. Meeting invitations he'd declined. Project timelines that didn't include the trip he was supposedly taking. He hadn't just lied to me. He'd lied to everyone. Built an entire fictional emergency to justify spending our money on another woman.
My phone rang.
Marcus. Sarah, the process server is in Hawaii. He'll be at the resort by noon local time. That's about 4 p.m. our time. 4 p.m. In 3 hours, David's perfect vacation would implode. The papers would be delivered to their room, probably while they were lounging by the pool or planning their romantic dinner. What happens then? I asked. He has 30 days to respond. But given what you've told me about your financial situation, I suspect he'll be calling you much sooner than that. And if he tries to access the accounts? Frozen solid. The only way money moves is with your signature or a court order. I thought about David trying to pay for dinner tonight. The embarrassment when his card got declined. The scrambling to figure out what had happened. The slow, dawning realization that his wife knew exactly where he was and who he was with. Marcus? Make sure the server gets photos. I want documentation that he's there with her. Already arranged. Full photo package, signed affidavit, the works. At 3:30, I couldn't concentrate anymore. I told my assistant I was taking a personal day and drove home. I wanted to be somewhere private when the bomb went off. I sat in the kitchen with my laptop and a cup of coffee, watching the clock. 4 p.m. came and went. 4:15. 4:30. At 4:47, my phone rang. David's number. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. And again. And again. On the 7th call, I answered. Hello, David. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I could hear ocean waves in the background. Birds calling. The sound of paradise about to become hell. Sarah, his voice was hoarse, strained. We need to talk. Do we? Because according to your schedule, you're in San Francisco meeting with the Peterson account. But Peterson says they haven't heard from you in a month. Funny how that works. Another silence. Longer this time. How did you? He stopped himself. Started over. Sarah, I can explain.
Can you?
Because I'd love to hear how you explain spending $15,000 of our money on a romantic vacation with your girlfriend. I'd love to hear the explanation for the matching luggage and the first-class tickets and the lies you've been telling me for God knows how long. It's not what it looks like. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. Really? Because what it looks like is my husband of 15 years having an affair and using our joint accounts to finance it. What it looks like is the man I trusted with my life, my future, my everything, betraying me in the most fundamental way possible. Sarah, please. Just let me come home, and we can talk about this. We can work through this. Oh, you're planning to come home? With what money? Because I froze every account we share. Your credit cards, our savings, the money market account, all of it. How exactly are you planning to pay for your plane ticket? The silence told me everything. He hadn't thought that far ahead. Had been living in the moment, playing house with his younger girlfriend, spending money that felt infinite because it was someone else's. You can't do that, he said finally. Actually, I can. And I did. Just like I filed for divorce yesterday and had the papers served to your romantic little hideaway. How did Jessica take the news? I bet that wasn't part of the vacation package she was expecting.
She's not, he stopped.
Regrouped. Sarah, she doesn't mean anything. It was a mistake, a temporary lapse in judgment. We can get through this. A mistake? A temporary lapse in judgment. My voice was rising now, all the careful control slipping away. You planned this trip for weeks. You researched the resort. You bought matching luggage. You told elaborate lies about client meetings and business emergencies. You spent our anniversary money on another woman. That's not a mistake, David. That's a choice. A series of choices, all of them designed to deceive me. I know how this looks, but... How it looks? How it looks is like our marriage was a joke to you. How it looks is like 15 years of my life meant nothing. How it looks is like you decided another woman was worth more than the vows you made to me. I was crying now, tears of rage and betrayal streaming down my face. But my voice stayed strong, steady. Sarah, I love you. I've always loved you. This thing with Jessica, it just happened. I never meant for it to go this far. How long? What? How long has it been going on? How long have you been fucking her behind my back? Another pause. The waves crashed in the background, indifferent to our destruction. 6 months, he whispered. 6 months. Half a year of lies and deception. Half a year of coming home to me every night and pretending nothing had changed. Half a year of making love to me while thinking about her. Get home however you can, I said. Borrow money from Jessica.
Sell something.
I don't care. But don't you dare show up at my house expecting forgiveness or understanding or a chance to explain. The time for explanations was 6 months ago. The time for honesty was when you met her. The time for choosing me was every single day for the last 15 years, and you failed that test spectacularly. Sarah, please don't do this. Don't throw away everything we've built. I'm not throwing it away, David. You already did that. I'm just cleaning up the wreckage. I hung up. The phone immediately started ringing again. I turned it off and sat in the silence of our kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of our life together. The spice rack I'd organized last weekend. The grocery list in his handwriting on the refrigerator. The coffee maker we'd bought for our 10th anniversary. Everything looked the same, but it was all different now, contaminated by the truth. I poured myself a glass of wine and walked around the house, really looking at it for the first time. The art we'd collected together. The furniture we'd picked out. The photographs documenting 15 years of shared experiences. But now I saw the gaps. The business trips that had become more frequent. The late nights at the office. The sudden interest in fitness, the new clothes, the cologne I didn't recognize. The clues had been there. I'd just chosen not to see them. Or maybe I'd been too busy building the life I thought we shared to notice he was building a different one entirely. By 8 p.m., the divorce papers were already trending on my brother's Facebook feed. Not the actual documents, of course, but the story. Sister catches cheating husband in Hawaii, serves divorce papers at resort. Someone had posted a photo of David and Jessica walking on the beach, probably taken by a well-meaning tourist who had no idea they were documenting adultery. The comments were brutal and satisfying in equal measure. Friends and family who'd always suspected. Colleagues who'd seen the signs. Strangers offering support and sharing similar stories. My phone pinged with text messages from friends, family members, coworkers. Everyone wanted details, wanted to express outrage, wanted to offer help. The support was overwhelming and exactly what I needed. But the most important message came from Marcus at 9:30. Papers successfully served. Photos documented. David attempted to bribe the server to leave without completing service. Jessica locked herself in the bathroom and refused to come out. This is going to be a very expensive divorce for him. I smiled for the first time in 2 days. The next morning, I woke up in my own bed, in my own house, in my own life. The sun streamed through windows that were mine now, painting patterns on floors that belonged to me. Everything felt smaller and larger at the same time. Smaller because it was just me now. Larger because the possibilities were endless. I made coffee in my kitchen and sat at my table and opened my laptop. The first email was from David's business partner, asking if I knew why David hadn't shown up for a crucial client presentation yesterday. The second was from our mortgage company, confirming that I'd successfully removed David as an authorized user on the account. The third was from David himself. A long, rambling message about love and forgiveness and temporary insanity. He'd managed to book a flight home, would be landing at 3 p.m. Wanted to talk. Needed to explain. Still believed we could work through this. I deleted it without finishing. Instead, I called a locksmith. How quickly can you change all the locks on a house? Emergency service? 2 hours. Perfect. I'll pay the rush charges. While I waited for the locksmith, I packed David's belongings. 15 years of shared closet space, bathroom counters, dresser drawers. His books and clothes and personal items. The things that made our house his home too. Everything went into boxes and suitcases. Neat, organized, thorough. The way I approached everything in my life. The way I should have approached my marriage if I'd been paying attention. I found things I didn't expect. Love letters from Jessica hidden in his sock drawer. Hotel receipts for trips I never heard about. Credit card statements for an account I didn't know existed. The evidence of a double life, carefully compartmentalized and hidden from the wife who trusted him completely. The locksmith arrived at noon. By 2 p.m., my house had new locks, new keys, and a new security system. David's belongings were stacked neatly on the front porch, covered with a tarp in case of rain. At 3:15, his Uber pulled into the driveway. I watched from the upstairs window as David got out of the car, looking haggard and desperate. His vacation clothes were wrinkled, his face unshaven, his usual confidence replaced by something that looked like panic. He tried his key in the front door. When it didn't work, he tried it again. Then he noticed the boxes on the porch. He rang the doorbell.
Knocked.
Called my name. I didn't answer. Finally, he pulled out his phone and called me. This time, I answered. Sarah, I'm home. Let me in so we can talk. This isn't your home anymore, David. What do you mean? Sarah, be reasonable. We need to discuss this like adults. We're discussing it. You're an adult who chose to have an affair and spend our money on another woman. I'm an adult who chose not to tolerate it. Your belongings are on the porch. I suggest you collect them before it rains. You can't lock me out of my own house. Actually, I can. The house is in my name. The mortgage is in my name. You're not on the deed, and as of yesterday, you're not on any of our accounts either. Technically, you've been my house guest for the last 8 years. And I'm evicting you. Through the window, I watched him sink onto the front steps, head in his hands. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered Jessica's laugh in the background of his phone calls. The lies about client meetings. The anniversary trip he'd said we couldn't afford while he was planning it with someone else. My sympathy died quickly. Where am I supposed to go? He asked. I don't care. Call Jessica. Call a hotel. Call your mother. But you're not coming back into this house, David. Not today, not ever. Sarah, please. I know I made mistakes. Mistakes? You had a 6-month affair and stole our money to finance it. Those aren't mistakes. Those are crimes. Against our marriage, against our future, against everything I believed in. I'll pay it back. Every penny. I'll do counseling, I'll do whatever it takes. With what money? You don't have access to our accounts anymore. Your credit cards are frozen. Jessica's probably on a plane back to wherever she came from, and I doubt she's planning to fund your redemption tour. The silence stretched between us. I could see him on the porch, shoulders shaking. Whether from rage or despair, I couldn't tell. Didn't care. This is my house too, he said finally. No, it isn't. Check the deed. Check the mortgage paperwork. Check the property tax records. My name, my credit, my down payment. You've been living in my house, spending my money, and lying to me for 15 years. But that ends today. You can't destroy 15 years of marriage over one mistake. One mistake. My voice went deadly quiet. David, you didn't accidentally kiss another woman at a Christmas party. You didn't have a one-night stand in a moment of weakness. You carried on a relationship for 6 months. You planned vacations with her. You told me elaborate lies about business trips while you were building a life with someone else. That's not one mistake. That's a systematic betrayal of everything we promised each other. I watched him through the window, seeing him clearly for the first time in years. Not as my husband, my partner, my future, but as a stranger who'd been living in my house and spending my money while fucking another woman. I'm coming back tomorrow with a lawyer, he said.
Good.
Bring Marcus Webb's number so they can coordinate. Oh, and David? Make sure your lawyer explains California's adultery laws. Specifically how they affect property division when one spouse uses community funds to support an extramarital affair. I think you'll find it very educational. I hung up and watched him load his belongings into another Uber. 15 years of marriage, reduced to boxes and suitcases. A lifetime together, ending with him driving away in a stranger's car. When the taillights disappeared around the corner, I opened a bottle of champagne I'd been saving for our anniversary. The bubbles tasted like freedom. The divorce took 8 months to finalize. 8 months of depositions and negotiations, asset valuations, and forensic accounting. David hired 3 different lawyers, each one more expensive than the last, each one telling him the same thing: he was screwed. The private investigator Marcus hired uncovered everything. The secret credit card David had used for gifts and hotel rooms. The business expenses he'd falsified to cover affair-related costs. The vacation days he'd claimed for client meetings while he was actually with Jessica. Jessica herself disappeared after the Hawaii debacle, blocked David on social media, changed her phone number, moved to a different city. Whatever future she'd imagined with him evaporated the moment those divorce papers were served. In the end, I got the house. 70% of our joint assets. Alimony for 5 years. And something more valuable than money, the absolute certainty that I'd handled the betrayal perfectly. David moved in with his mother. Got a job selling insurance. Started therapy according to mutual friends. Sent me letters apologizing, explaining, begging for another chance. I returned them all unopened. A year later, I was promoted to senior partner at my firm. Bought a new car with my alimony payment. Started dating a colleague who thought my divorce story was badass rather than bitter. A man who appreciated that I'd fought for myself instead of accepting betrayal as the price of marriage. Sometimes, late at night, I wondered what would have happened if I'd confronted David before calling Marcus. If I'd given him a chance to explain, to grovel, to promise it would never happen again. But then I remembered the matching luggage. The lies about client meetings. The 6 months of deception that had preceded Hawaii. The systematic betrayal of everything I'd believed about our marriage. And I knew I'd done exactly the right thing. Some betrayals are too fundamental to forgive. Some trust, once broken, can never be repaired. Some marriages end not with a conversation or counseling or a second chance, but with divorce papers served in paradise and accounts frozen before the lies can do any more damage. David learned that lesson on a beach in Maui, surrounded by the wreckage of his double life. I learned it in our kitchen, surrounded by the strength I never knew I possessed. In the end, we both got exactly what we deserved.